After a week of rioting and disorder in the United Kingdom, thousands of counter-protesters have now rallied in cities and towns across England. In London, Bristol and Newcastle, where anti-immigration protests were expected, counter-protesters held up banners that read, "Fight racism, stop the far right," and they also chanted, "Refugees are welcome here." This amidst a massive deployment of police in anticipation of further violence. So as posts online warned that the far-right anti-Muslim protesters would target a list of immigration centres, migrant support centres and specialist law firms, prompting many businesses to close early and some shops to board up their windows. However, the protests largely passed off peacefully, with only a handful of arrests being made. Robert Yenrick, a candidate for Conservative Party leader, called on the police to arrest anyone who shouted Allahu Akbar. Meanwhile, in total, more than 400 arrests have been made in relation to the riots that were sparked by disinformation online about the fatal stabbing of 3 girls in Southport on the 29th of July. Of the people who are being looked at by the police for their alleged role in disseminating disinformation is this individual called Tommy Robinson. He's a former leader of the defunct anti-Islam English Defence League. Now, since the 30th of July, Robinson has repeatedly linked the stabbings to the Muslim community on X without any basis whatsoever. His posts received more than 434 million views, with an average of 54.3 million views every single day since the riots began. He's said to have been tweeting from a resort outside of the Iron Upper in Cyprus, even as an arrest warrant has now been issued against him in the United Kingdom. In Northern Ireland's Belfast, large crowds gathered outside of the Stormont Parliament buildings to protest against racism and hate crimes. The residents held up signs that read messages such as "Stand against racism, unite with hope."
What we want to hear.
The executive, the UK government.
We are not feeling safe at all. We are not feeling safe in a way that we are worried about even going to the shops. We are afraid of shopping. You're worried about the next person. You know, what will they do? Will something start, while you're shopping? And we're afraid of even getting into taxis. The smallest of things, one would take for granted. You worry, is your taxi driver going to be racist or not when they see you? So all those things are things that people need to take into account. At the minute, that's what's going on.
And also, we earlier spoke with Stuart Smith, who joined us live from London. Listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, there's a degree of cautious optimism that may be the end of the week of serious disorder we saw throughout England and elsewhere in the UK. The around 100 predicted far-right demos, protests, potentially could have been riots, failed to materialise, with the largest presence on the streets being the counter-protesters and the police themselves, who said they had thousands of officers ready to deploy to try and prevent any disorder from making any momentum on Wednesday evening. And that plan largely seems to have worked. The Metropolitan Police said that the show of force, as well as the unity from communities in London, that's London's police force, prevented any scenes as we've seen over the past few days in other parts of the country. There was also what Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, hinted at working, which was the idea of swift justice. Wednesday was the first day that anyone had been sentenced to prison for their role in riots in Southport. The 3 men initially jailed at Liverpool Crown Court received sentences of nearly 2 years up to 3 years, and perhaps that went some way to discourage people, or at least make them think twice about going onto the street.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.